All right, today we're going to make sure you don't get in trouble from the Social Security Administration or receive one of those nasty grams from them that you owe them a bunch of money. You've got penalties and all the rest of the stuff. So let's talk about that today. So I'm going to go into what counts as income, what happens if you get a pension, inheritance, gambling winnings, workers' comp, all the rest of it. So, and this is also a live Q&A. If you have any questions, make sure you join my live Q&A. If you're watching this later in a recording, please subscribe, like, and share, and all that kind of good stuff. Let's jump right into it right now. And okay, so how does the your all those income affect your Social Security benefit and your Medicare? Also, I got a lot of. I did a video yesterday on the the law signed by President Biden for those 3% of government employees, state, local employees that are going to be getting a whole bunch of extra money and a big back payment of thousands of dollars. And so a lot of people had questions about it. And so I'm going to address a little bit of that today as well. But let's go ahead and stick to the regularly scheduled program here. Okay, so um, pensions, let's go down the list. If you are receiving any type of private pension from a private entity, most government pensions, they do not affect your Social Security benefits at all. The only, well, I guess I was about to say, unless you're receiving one from a state or local, but since Biden signed that, that no longer affects it as of right now. So if you're receiving any other types of pension that doesn't affect your Social Security benefit at all, you don't have to notify Social Security that you're receiving another pension or anything like that. Obviously, Social Security, when it started back in 1935, it was supposed to be, the three legs of the stool to keep you up for retirement. It's supposed to be your Social Security, it's supposed to be a pension, and your savings. Obviously, pensions of that's not many people get pensions nowadays, and so seems like there's 40% of people that actually live on Social Security alone. So it's tough out there. So make sure you subscribe, and we'll make sure we find all the money you're entitled to. What about an inheritance? People ask me all the time, hey, I'm receiving Social Security, retirement benefits, spouse benefits, survivor benefits, disability. I just got a bunch of money in my inheritance. How is that going to affect my Social Security? Well, it's not. No effect whatsoever. And I want to be clear, what I'm talking about today here is exactly that. Social Security retirement, Social Security survivor benefits, spouse benefits, SSDI, Social Security disability insurance. I'm not talking about SSI. SSI is a completely different animal, completely different program. It's Supplemental Security Income, SSI. That is a welfare based program that the Social Security also administers. It celebrated its 50 year last year. It was started at Social Security, took it over to 1974, but it is a welfare based program. Limited resources, limited income. Anytime you receive any money and you're on SSI, that welfare based program, pensions, inheritance, gambling, anything like that, you have to make sure you notify Social Security because it will affect your SSI. But I'm not talking about that today. I'm talking about regular retirement benefits, disability benefits, and all the rest of it. Okay, so pensions, no effect. Inheritance, no effect whatsoever. Gambling. This is where there's exceptions, the exceptions, the exceptions. If you win some money as a gambler, um, if you are a true gambler, if that is your profession, you are a professional poker player or, whatever, then if that is your profession, that is your job, is that you gamble for a living and that is your business to gamble for a living, then that is essentially net income because that is your business. Then that will affect your Social Security benefits. And in terms of retirement and survivors, we're only talking about affecting your Social Security benefits when you're under your full retirement age. Because once you hit your full retirement age, you can go back to making $1 billion a month in your, pie gow or whatever the case may be, or inheritance, or work or net income from self-employment or whatever the case may be. Once you hit your full retirement age, Social Security has no limitations on how much you can make. We're only talking about early retirement here. So if you just, hit, 3 sevens at the local slot machine and you get $5,000 or something like that, it does not affect Social Security. It is not reported as Social Security as earnings. And only time it is if you're a professional gambler. What about workers' comp? If you get some type of workers' comp, that does not affect your retirement, spouse benefits, survivor benefits, but it may affect your disability benefits. Um, Workers' comp, public disability benefits. Congress decided the law is that they believe people shouldn't make more when they're on disability than they did when they were actually working. So if your Social Security benefits and your workers' comp equal, $6,000 a month, and when you were actually working, you were only receiving, $5,000, then there's kind of an offset there. So if you're receiving any type of workers' comp, public disability benefits, then you have to make sure you contact Social Security if you're receiving SSDI. If it's not a public disability, like if it's a long-term disability from your company or something like that, that has no relevance. That's not relevant to Social Security at all. It's only the workers' comp, because that's a kind of a state agency or a public disability. So it's only if it's a public type of income. What about wages? Yes, wages, obviously. People say, was it gross wages, net wages, whatever the case may be? No, it's the gross wages, whatever your employer actually pays you per hour or per month or whatever the case may be. What you do with that money afterwards, give it to taxes, give it to alimony, give it to a 401k. That's not relevant. It's the gross wages is what Social Security determines if it's going to offset your benefits. Remember, this year it's $23,400. Anything over $23,400, then Social Security holds back $1 for every $2 you go over. Once you hit your full retirement age, 66 and 8 months, 67, or whatever the case may be, the year you turn your full retirement age, that changes. This year in 2025, it's $62,160. Anything before your full retirement age, you have to stay under $62,160. Anything after your full retirement age, you can go back to making $1 billion a month. Regular viewers to my show know that I always exaggerate for effect, right? So those are wages. It's gross wages. What about if you have your own business, a 1099 or your own business? Then it's net income. So if you make $1 million, but it costs you $900,000 to make that $1 million, then your income is only $100,000. So it's only based on your net income. And if that's the case, you definitely need to check out your expenses, right? What about back pay? Some people, they file for benefits like in July. And so they start their benefits in July and they say, okay, hey, starting July, I'm going to stay under the monthly earnings limit. And what is the monthly earnings limit? It's basically the first year you start receiving your benefits, they can switch you from an annual to a monthly. So let's say you're going to start your benefits July of this year and you make $1 billion from January to June. Social Security doesn't care. Congratulations. Awesome. Make sure you become a member at Ed's channel and support our mission here. Anyway, a little advertisement in there. But they only care about once you start receiving your Social Security benefits. So if you make $1 billion from January to June, no problem. You want your benefits to start in July, your Social Security, they'll ask you, hey, are you going to make less than $1,950 starting July? So yes. Are you going to stay under $1,950 for the rest of the year? Yes. Okay, we can start your benefits. We don't care what you made before then. The problem is, if part of that $1 billion that you made, your employer or whatever says, in August or September, they say, oh, we've got some back pay here for you, some annual leave, or, there was a commission that we owed you, whatever the case may be. And then they send you the money and you're like, oh my gosh, I've gone over and over. That's for a previous time. So, what happens, unfortunately, sometimes is the computer system is not too great at Social Security, so it might ding you and said, "Hey, you told us you're going to be under 1950 for the rest of the year, but we see you just got this, $3,000, $10,000 check," and unfortunately, you just have to go down to Social Security, and good luck with that, because politicians are trying to ruin customer service at Social Security, and they're doing a great job trying to choke the beast so they can privatize it and give it to their buddies at Wall Street. But anyway. But we're smarter than them. So make sure you reach out to your politicians and tell them to support Social Security and improve customer service so you don't have to wait online for 3 hours. Okay, so you go down to Social Security and you just show them, says, yes, this $5,000, $10,000 check I got was for a previous time, before I started receiving benefits, and they'll go ahead and, take care of it. So no big issue. What about rental income? Same type of thing as gamblings. If you just have, you got an Airbnb in your house, or an extra house that you rent out or something like that, that's not an issue. But if it's a business, a full blown business, it really depends between you and your buddies at the IRS how you classify that with the IRS, whether you classify it as a full grown business that you have a net income from. But if it's just your, kind of a side hustle type thing, then Social Security doesn't care. So it's really how you, kind of get that in there. Um, One of the other things is, if you do go over, for whatever reason, you do go over the yearly limit, the $23,400, y- your check will stop. If there's a few ways you can do this. You can notify Social Security ahead of the game and say, hey, I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to make, 50, 60, $70,000. I'm going to be way over. Stop my checks, and they will suspend your benefits. Or you can kind of let it ride. Or if you don't know if you're going to be maybe 24,000, $1,000 over, or $2,000 or $4,000, you don't know until you get close to December, and by that time it's too late to stop your benefits because you can't get into Social Security. What you can do is just let it ride. And this is what politicians use as another kind of a piece of ammo to kind of attack Social Security, is overpayments. Oh, Social Security pays people too much all the time. They don't know what they're doing. Some people do overpayments as a conscious decision. They say, hey, I'm only going to be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 over. I'm not really sure. So I'll just go ahead and get my check. And then when I file my taxes next year, I'll notify the IRS. The IRS will notify Social Security. Social Security will send me that nasty gram in the mail that said, hey, you made $2,000 more than you said you were going to make. Therefore, you owe us $1,000. Pay us at the check. And at that time, you can either cut a check, which almost nobody ever does. You can set up a payment plan and set up the payment plan, and they'll take, X amount of money out of your check, out of your Social Security check, like every month or so. So a lot of people do that conscious decision to go ahead and do the overpayment, and rather than calling Social Security and say I'm going to be 1,000, 2,000, or $10,000 over in Social Security, and you have to wait on the phone for 3 hours, and then they stop your benefits, and then they don't restart it when they're supposed to, and so some people just let it ride, and politicians use that as another proof that Social Security doesn't know what they're talking about, but it was a conscious decision, and so again, we're smarter than them. One of the things. Let me back up a little bit, because if you do that, if you do that, um, then you're not going to get benefits for that month. Let's say, and you're not going to lose that benefit. They're not going to give you a check later, but here's how it works. So if you start your benefits, let's say 30 months early, so you're reduced by 30 months. You get a 30-month reduction. And then after 10 months, you go back to work and don't get 20 months worth of checks. What happens is when you hit your full retirement age, it's called ARF, the adjusted reduction factor. They adjust it. The computer system automatically looks at it and says, once you restart your benefits, it says, hey, this person has been reduced by 30 months. But they only got 10 months of the checks. So what they do is they unreduce you. So instead of reducing you by 30 months, they reduce you by 10 months, the actual number of months you actually receive those checks. So you only be reduced by 10 months for the rest of your life. And that's completely automatic. And it doesn't happen until your full retirement age, once you hit that and restart your benefits. All right. What about all of this and Medicare? So Medicare is a different beast in the sense of they count different things. So if you are, let's say you're a full retirement age and you make $200,000, then Social Security doesn't care, but Medicare does. There's called the IRMA, income related monthly adjustment amount. If you make over a certain amount, for this year, it's 2025, it's $106,000 for if you're single, $212,000 if you're married, and that's based on earnings from 2 years prior. So a lot of people out there have received this IRMA letter that they're going to pay more for their Part B Medicare Part B premium and more for their Medicare Part D, the drug plan. That's because they're considered high wage earners. And again, it's based on income, which includes pretty much anything. Capital gains, if you sell a house, there's exceptions, there's exclusion there. But if you cash out a 401k and stuff like that. It's IRMA is calculated completely different, and you might have to pay an extra premium for a year. It's not as like when you sign up for Part B late. So if you don't sign up for Part B at 65 when you're supposed to, and you do it a year later, then you're penalized 10% for every 12 months you did not sign up, and that's forever, forever. But with the IRMA, it's only for that 1 year, and unless you make another, $212,000 the next year, then it's reapplied the next year and then the next year. But if you work, if you were working 2 years ago and that's where that income came from, and then you stopped working, then you can file what's called an SSA 44. It's called a life-changing event, that you do this life-changing event and you tell Social Security, says, yes, I made, $1 billion 2 years ago, but I have since stopped working, and they will recalculate your benefits and, take out that extra Part B and Part D premium. And now we're in the middle of the open enrollment period for Medicare Advantage. You can switch your Medicare Advantage from January, February, March. You reach out to my partners at Chapter, they can help you out there. You can go back to original Medicare. You can get out and try to go back to original Medicare if you're healthy. And you can reach out to Chapter and they can check out each state. Some states do it a little bit differently. So it's always good to check out what's available in your state. A lot of people pick the wrong plan during the annual enrollment period from October 15th to December 7th. And they go to their doctor and they say, oh, yeah, we don't take this plan anymore. Or wait a second, I have to pay $300 a day for a hospital, or got to pay all this money for an MRI, or they don't cover my drug. Or so a lot of people, this is kind of a mulligan. This is kind of a do-over. January, February, March. If you switch your plan in this month, then the new plan will start in February 1st. Okay. All right. So let's get into the Q&A. Before I get into the Q&A, a lot of questions. I did that video yesterday talking about the Social Security Fairness Act, which I would argue is an Unfairness Act, and that there are 3% of retirees out there that are going to be getting some extra benefits. And guess what? The other 97%, you're not. And if you read the comments, I got a lot of nasty comments on that one. Those 3% are not happy with my take on it, which is they don't really argue the facts of the case. They just kind of do a personal attack, but that's all right. I'm a Marine Corps sergeant, I can take it. And it's interesting that a lot of people say, what are you talking about, Ed? What are you talking about, Ed? 97% of the people that watch this, I think, probably watch that video, don't understand what happened. And they don't understand what Social Security President Biden signed. And again, this is bipartisan. They don't understand the nature of it. And I understand that because it's a very complicated thing. It's based on 3% of the people that worked for state or local entities that did not pay into Social Security, did not participate into Social Security. But they did work in other places, and that's the issue. Um, so I understand why 97% really didn't understand what was going on. That's fine. But it's kind of troubling that the 3% that know about this and have been fighting to overturn this legislation for decades didn't know it. You can read in the comments, you can see that, yeah, people just didn't know how the calculations are done, and that you receive a percentage of your earnings. When Social Security determines how much your benefit amount is, it looks at your entire work history and determines where you're at in terms of a percentage, how much percentage you get of those. You either get like 30%, 35%, 50%, up to 90%. And a lot of people don't know that. And I said these state and local government employees are essentially able to hide their earnings. And people say, how do you hide your earnings? Well, let me show you. So this is also an important thing for everybody out there. I'll keep this very, very quick, 2 or 3 minutes. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on this because I've explained it a whole bunch of times. And people that don't want to understand it won't understand it because they don't want to understand it. They just want the extra money, which I can understand. But when you go in to file for Social Security, they look at your SEQI, your summary in earnings query, and they see all the money you paid into Social Security. And they look at that and they take that, they average it out to how much your monthly benefit amount or how much you earned throughout your life, your averaged index monthly earnings. So they come up with like, okay, you're gonna, you made $5,000 a month on average. So you'll get X amount percentage, right? So that's how they determine it. And people that are low income earners get more money. They don't get more money, they get a higher percentage, right? So this is a low income worker that in 1975 made zero, in 1989 made zero, in a few years in 97 made zero, $2,000, $8,000 a month. Didn't make very much money. So low income workers get paid a higher percentage. So this person would get probably about 90% replacement rate of what they paid into Social Security. This person would not. This person would not get 90%. This person probably get about 55% or something like that. So if your average earnings throughout your life was $10,000, you would only get about 35% replacement. So that's how the whole thing goes. And the problem is with these 3%, they're essentially, they didn't do it themselves, but what happens is in the Social Security computer system, it looks at the earnings you make throughout your life, and then it separates them into covered and non-covered earnings. So when a firefighter or a police officer or a teacher comes for these 3%, Social Security looks at this and looks at their income there and says, wow, you've been poor all your life. Probably on food stamps, you don't have a pension, you were barely surviving. So we're going to give you 90% replacement rate. And this was intended for people that are low income, lunch ladies, janitors, you know whatever the case may be, people that are disabled, not able to work. We're going to give you a higher percentage rate. A government employee comes in and their earnings at the top part looks exactly like that. Just looks like the low income worker that was getting the 90%. So we're going to give you 90% too, because wow, you were having a hard time. You were barely able to survive. You don't have a pension. You were on food stamps most of your life. Oh, wait a second. Those earnings that were kind of hidden. Let me put my my scare quotes, hidden. Obviously, you didn't hide those yourself, but that's essentially the bureaucratic glitch that these 3% are kind of taking advantage of, is that those earnings weren't counted on the totality like the other 97%. So those earnings, this worker is treated like a low-income worker, like they were on food stamps most of their life, eating out of garbage cans, homeless, disabled, whatever the case may be, having a really, really hard time struggling throughout their life. So we're going to give you 90% or 85% or 70% or 60%. We're going to give you more than most other people. But their true earnings aren't in the system like everybody else's. They're called non-covered earnings. They're separate. How do I know this? Because I've seen millions of these, because this is how the computer system works. So these people are taking advantage of a computer glitch, a bureaucratic glitch, in order to get more money. And if they took all of their totality together, then these government employees would not receive 90% or 85%. They would receive exactly the same as the other cops and firefighters and teachers and lunch ladies and janitors or whatever throughout the country that earn the equal amount. So these workers here, the 97% that earned exactly the same, get 50% replacement rate. This 3% government employee will get a 90% replacement rate. And explain to me, this is what they're missing in the comments, I work for this money, I earn this money. No one is saying you shouldn't receive what you paid into it. We're saying that you shouldn't receive a higher percentage than everybody else that paid the same amount into Social Security, that earned the same amount throughout their life. And no one is saying that the way they calculated the benefits, the WEP and the GPO and all that stuff, no one is saying that the system that has been in place for the last 40 years is the perfect system. It got it right most of the time, but sometimes, yes, it did get it wrong. But explain to me why you are now saying that it's not unfair to the other 97%. I am sure the 97% of lunch ladies and firefighters and teachers out there would love to have a few extra $100 that you're going to get because you're getting a higher replacement rate. I'm sure 97% would love to have an extra $500 and a big fat check for back pay for the past year. So $500 extra a month plus a $6,000 check, lump sum check. I'm sure 97% would love to have that, but they're not going to get it. Only the 3% are. So, okay, there's my diatribe on that. And I probably didn't explain it as perfectly as I should have yesterday. So I added that today. Okay, let's get into your questions. Can you remarry and still keep receiving survivor benefits? Yes, if you remarry after the age of 60 years old. Right. This information is crucial. Please take time to hit the thumbs up button. Yes, please, please, please. Oh, and let me throw this up real quick. And this is a call to action. If the 97% of lunch ladies out there and janitors and construction workers and truck drivers and waitresses and everybody else out there, they're not receiving the extra money that these 3% are, then I suggest you call your senators, representatives, the White House, reach out to them on social media, visit their office and say, hey, either make it fair for everybody or everybody gets the extra money, right? And smash the FICA cap. This is how we're going to solve Social Security going forward. And let's improve customer service at your local office, because too many people are having to wait on the phone for 3 hours and not getting the benefits they're entitled to, not knowing about the benefits they're eligible for, because the Social Security customer service is being kind of, drowned in the bathtub. And then you ask your politician what they're doing to prevent cuts in the future from Social Security, because there are going to be cuts coming, not during this term, but the following term if something isn't done immediately, if not sooner. Okay, you can take a picture of that and keep it on your phone and just continuously reach out to your representatives. What happened to the 3 checks seniors who get SSI? I heard about on one YouTube channel. The first one was 1,500, and the second was the third check. Um, that's probably one of those clickbait typey thingies, where if the end of the month is like on a Sunday or something like that, then the Department of Treasury, Social Security pays the check like a couple days earlier. So instead of getting 2 checks in a month, you get 3 checks, and that third check is just for the following month. So anytime that happens, you got all these YouTubers and TikTokers and all the rest of them out there that make these videos. Oh, you're getting 3 checks this month. Oh, click here, and you click, and it's just like you're getting next month's check a few days earlier. So yeah, watch out for that. Surely, can I file Social Security on my record and then a year later, when I reach full retirement age, my spouse Social Security? Um, yes, however, if your spouse is currently receiving benefits, when you file, you have to file for benefits on that record too. It's called a deemed filing. But if they are not receiving benefits, and then they start receiving benefits a year later, 2 years later, then yes, you can also add those benefits. You still have to continue receiving benefits on your own record, but they add those extra benefits on top of yours. All right, let's see. Occam's razor. I have Social Security and Medicare A and B. Began using Cost Plus, decreasing my med costs from 230 to 45 a month. Does this take my Med B into account? Um, I think that's one of those, discount typey. Is that the one Mark Cuban runs? But anyway, um, no, because if some people do that. They say, well, instead of using my, Part D or my Medicare Advantage Part D, they'd say, it's cheaper just to go and direct or, buy whatever, which is fine. However, you have to be careful that if you then have other prescriptions that you have to fill that are a lot more expensive, whatever you paid for whatever outside of the system, that does not count against any deductible you have. So if you have like you have to pay the first $1,000 and then you go out there and buy a bunch of stuff off, of Amazon or whatever, that doesn't count against that $1,000. You have to buy it in the system. So I'm going to have someone from Chapter in the next several days join us and go over some of the details of Medicare and Part D and all the changes for 2025. So make sure you subscribe and join me on that one. Let's see. After applying and getting approval on my Social Security application, can I withdraw within 1 year time without any penalty or reduction to my future Social Security payments? Any time limit before I can reply? Yes, you can withdraw your application within 1 year, 12 months. So you withdraw the application, but you have to pay all that money back. So the withdrawal is basically like you never started your application and never received any benefits. You're just saying, hey, forget about it. So a withdrawal isn't complete until you actually return the money. So you say, "Hey, I want to withdraw," and then they send you essentially a bill that says, "Okay, you asked us to withdraw, pay us this," and it's not a withdrawal until you actually pay it. So, and if you do that, then you know, I've had cases where they withdraw, they pay all the money back, and then like a week later they came back and said, "Oh, yeah, oops, I shouldn't have done that," and you can go ahead and reapply. They're probably not going to keep the same protective filing date. They're probably not going to be able to start you at the previous time, but they might find an exception in there. But yeah, you can file anytime, and it doesn't affect your benefits because you paid everything back. There's not a reduction, anything like that. So because you paid them back, it's like it never happened. It's like you never walked into the Social Security office. Um, Let's see here. I'll be 65 in February, signed up for Medicare Supplement G with Chapter, and started Social Security in November 2024. I'm moving to another state in 2 months. What to do? Reach out to Chapter again, and they'll may have to re-rate you based on that state. Well, they're definitely going to have to help you find a new prescription drug plan, because the G, you can go anywhere in the country and use your Medicare Supplement Plan G, but some companies, it might be cheaper in your area or it might be a little bit more expensive in your state. But your Part D plan 100% needs to change if you moved into another area, another state, particularly. So reach out to them and they'll help you out. How long after you've had the pills judge ruling, then it goes back to local Social Security office for final non-medical? How long does it take? Okay, it could take a while. All Social Security offices, including the administrative law judge, offices, the ODAR, the OHA. They've changed the name of that organization like a dozen times. Um, the judge says yay or nay, and then they have to send it to a writer who writes up the order, and then that sent back to the judge for a signature, and then the judge sends that to your local office. So it could take a month, 2 months, 3 months, unfortunately. So while you're waiting, reach out to your politician and say, "Hey, how come I had to wait 8 months, 9 months?" Well, in your case, you probably had to wait 2 years. And hopefully you reach out to your politician and say, "This is completely unsatisfactory. Why are you not supporting better service at your local Social Security office?" And they'll say, they'll give you maybe some BS. And you can read between the lines and they say, "Oh, okay, I understand," because you want it to fail. You want the system to fail so you can give it to your buddies on Wall Street. Okay, I understand where you're at. We'll see you next election, right? If I'm disabled, do I have to pay taxes on my husband who passed and I get widow's benefits? Yeah, I don't do taxes. Yep. So sorry. I live in the EU and I have a call tomorrow to register for Medicare and Social Security. All I've been told is that I have an appointment. I'll be called. What can I expect and need for the call? Yeah, just pick up the phone and answer the questions. You may need a birth certificate. You may not. Depends on where we were born and all that stuff. But yeah, yeah, just pick up the phone and make sure they check your earnings record. That's the most important thing. Hopefully, you've gone into SSA.gov and set up a My Social Security account, and yeah, check your earnings record because that's how they determine. The thing I just popped up there. That's basically your earnings record. That's what's used to determine how much you're going to make. And again, they take that and they do this weird calculation and they determine, okay, 50, your average earnings was, like for instance, 39.55. I used this yesterday. So if your average earnings, your monthly uh, average index monthly earnings was $3,955, then you will get a 50% replacement rate. You'll get 50% of that, and that's actually the average check throughout the country. It's this year it's $1,976. Yes, $1,976 is the average check. So that's a 50% replacement rate. So yes. So if you're receiving, $1,000, if your average throughout your life is $1,000, then you're getting 90%. And that's what, again, those 3%, they're getting a higher percentage rate than everybody else. And unless we get that fixed. But you might be doing one of the FBU, the Federal Benefits Unit. And if that's the case, then unfortunately, you're going to take a long time to get your case approved. worked, because it goes to the federal benefits unit, probably, I think in your case, in London, maybe, since you're in the EU. And then it goes to Baltimore. Yeah, it's going to take a long, long time. Yeah, unfortunately. How are occasional jackpot winnings handled, or do they need recorded? Yeah, for Social Security, don't care unless you are a professional jackpot player, I guess. But no, it you know, obviously the IRS is going to take their ounce of flesh, but in terms of Social Security, that's not considered work earnings. So that doesn't affect your Social Security in terms of early retirement and annual earnings limit and all that kind of stuff. So I had my here. Oh, okay, that was a basically follow up question. Um, how do they manage not to pay the FICA tax people with won the Unfairness Act? Yeah, that's the deal. They decided decades ago that these government entities, Texas and California and Chicago and different Nevada, they said, yeah, we don't want our employees to pay into Social Security, and yeah, so they don't pay into Social Security. They pay the Medicare part, but they don't pay the Social Security part. With their main jobs, and people are going to complain. I did pay into Social Security. Yes, yes, yes. We understand. It's amazing that the leaders of this, the leaders that you saw standing behind President Biden when he signed that Social Security Fairness Unfairness Act, um, are the leaders of the movement that got it to repeal, and they never took the time to explain this to their constituents. And I find that if you go onto their website, it doesn't talk about bin points or replacement rates or percentage and low ink. It doesn't explain that. They do it. If it did, it's hidden in the back of some website somewhere. They did a terrible job explaining that to their constituents. And I hate to be cynical here, but I think that's on purpose because they wanted to lead the movement and all the rest of it, and to keep their jobs. And so it's amazing that the 3%. You can read in the comments, some of the comments, and their personal attacks. And I paid into it. I deserve it. Nobody says you don't deserve it. We're just saying that you don't deserve more than other people that paid into it. That they earned as much as you did throughout your life. Why do they get 50% and you get 60% or 70% or 80%? That's the only thing we're saying. But you'll see things that I don't know what I'm talking about, and even though I've done it a million times. Anyway, Ed got approved for SSDI in July 2024. Was told Medicare began February 24. I'm 63. Does this mean I will get back pay from January 2022? Yeah, I would reach out to them. There's a 5-month waiting period, and it looks like you just got. Yeah, if you should have received a letter that tells you all of that. That you got approved for July, and so you got approved in July, and so it's basically, yeah, they started you back until January, and there's a 5-month waiting period, but your Medicare has started. So if you want the details and exactly the timeline, you can reach out to them, and they can give you that specific timeline when they started your benefits and all the rest of it. So the small amount I have in teacher retirement, I'm a bus driver, won't be affected. Um, no, in terms of yeah, annual earnings limit or anything like that, it does not affect your Social Security benefits at all. Right. With the new bill, will wives be eligible for their husband's Social Security even if they receive teacher retirement? Yes, yes, and that's the GPO part, which I don't spend a lot of time talking about because everybody, the 97% of people out there, their spouse's benefit, when they receive their benefits offset what they receive from their spouses. But on this new thing, they don't. So yeah, it's completely unfair, and they should have moved to correct the system rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But yeah, okay, gambling Ed, I will start my Social Security in September of this year. I am 65 and will continue to work. What will happen if I go over the 1950 per month, which I most likely will? So you're going to start your benefits in September. You're under your full retirement age. So if you're over the annual earnings limit for this year, if you're going to make over $23,400, then they can switch to the monthly starting September. So September, October, November, December, if you're under 1950 for those months, then you can start your benefits. If you're not, then you have to wait till the following year. If I make 23,400 in 2025, does interest earned from checking savings account affect the penalty? Nope, not at all. Not one penny of it. All right. Not in terms of Social Security. IRS, that's a whole different beast that I'm not going to be talking about. Yeah. Let's see here. Renee, my first time on live. Hey, Renee, welcome. Let's see here. So if the WEP is removed, the Social Security Fairness Act would only benefit those who paid FICA. Correct. That is correct. What about those who didn't pay FICA at all? I'm confused. Yes. Okay. Yes. So these government employees, their main jobs, they did not pay into Social Security, the FICA. They paid the Medicare, um, but they did not pay the FICA, the Social Security part of FICA. But in their other jobs, so if they were a police officer and they, worked security on the weekends or something like that, they worked at a place that did pay into Social Security. That's what they're going to be receiving the Social Security money from. So yes, I'll get a bunch of comments there that people, but I did pay into Social Security. Yes, we understand that, but we're talking about looking at your total earnings, determine how much your percentage you're going to be receiving. So like teachers, before they became a teacher, they worked at another district that actually paid into Social Security. So that's where they're getting their benefits from. So they are 100% entitled to those benefits. Nobody's arguing that are not eligible and entitled to those benefits. They paid for those benefits. That's 100% true. Nobody is saying they're not. But I'll get 100 remarks that I earned that. Yes, we know that you earned it. We are just saying that you do not deserve a higher percentage than everybody else in an equal position to you, including if you're a police officer. Why are you better than the other 97% of police officers out there? If you're a teacher, why are you better than 97% of the teachers out there that get a less percentage? But people that don't want to understand this won't understand it. Hey. The Imaginator, hey, what's up? For those of us on Social Security, it is the same old song and dance. Take your 2.5% raise and be happy. That's all we're going to get. Yes. And as I mentioned yesterday, the Biden, it was a political show, 100%. He's like, I expanded Social Security. No, you didn't. You hamstrung Social Security. You helped Social Security be even in a worse situation because you're essentially, issuing out President Biden, President Trump is going to have to sign those checks for the $190 billion and the next president. So is 100% political theater just so the president and this not only the president, Mike Johnson did this, supported this. It was bipartisan, heavy support by the representatives, House of Representatives, Democrat and Republican, heavy support from Democrat and Republican in the Senate. So it was 100% bipartisan. So it was just 100% political that now they're going to say, so look, yes, we supported Social Security. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. It's just you people think you did because they don't understand the details. So investigative journalists out there, come on, get with the program and stop parodying the company line. Okay. Let's see. I'm jumping around a little bit. I got tons of questions, but I'm just jumping around. So I'm not skipping anybody consciously. I'm just jumping around here. Back in 1999, my father applied for SSI and was denied because SSA noticed he was getting a small Social Security from another country. Yep. So SSI is a welfare-based program. If you receive any other money from any other place, doesn't matter where it is, then yes, you can be denied SSI because it is a welfare-based program. So does earning money after fraud impact independent former spouse amounts? Independent former spouse amount. Negatively, no. Positively, yes. If you are working, doesn't matter when it is, if you're 65, 75, 85, 105 years old, if you're working and paying into Social Security and that's one of your high 35 years of earnings, then when you file your taxes, the IRS notifies Social Security and says, hey, Christine made, $150,000 last year. And Social Security computer system will look at that and say, hey, is this one of Christine's high earnings? High 35 years? Yeah, it's one of the high 30s. So they kick out the low one, stick in the new one. recalculate the benefits, and your benefits go up, and anybody that's receiving benefits on that record, a spouse, a current spouse, a previous spouse, a divorced spouse, an independently entitled divorced spouse, a child under the age of 18, a child that became disabled before the age of 22, all their benefits will go up accordingly because your PIA, your primary insurance, went up as well. So I'm going to be 70 in May. With the new administration planning to burn down the house, does it make sense to start collection my benefits now instead of waiting until May? Um, yeah, I've, people ask me for decades, when should I start my benefits? And I always say, well, are you healthy? Or do you need the money? Is it a tax issue? Do you have longevity in your family? And all those kind of questions. But I just started asking the question, well, what do you think about the political situation? I'm kind of you know, an optimist. I know it's disgusting, but I think we'll solve it, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, and I'm not blaming the next president. People always complain, "Oh, you're blaming Biden or Trump." No, I blame all of them. We've known that the cuts are going to happen for decades, and what are we talking about in terms of cuts? We've known about this for decades, and Obama should have fixed it, and his Congress, and Biden should have fixed it, and Trump should have fixed it, and the Bushes and Clinton, but we didn't make them fix it, and now we're at the critical point where if we don't do something in the next year or two, this is why people say, "Ed, you got to stop with the negative videos." No, I'm gonna keep doing them. I'm trying to rally the troops to finally get this done, because the cuts are just around the corner. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So right now we're probably, as of last week, we're looking at cuts about 20, 34, 21%. And because this new law that was just passed is probably going to be deeper cuts is going to happen sooner. If the next president does some of the stuff he's talking about, they're going to be deeper cuts and those are going to happen sooner. Or we can decide to vote and act and call up our representatives and do all that stuff. And if we do all that stuff there and say smash the cap or ask them what they're doing to stop their benefits, to stop the cuts, then maybe we won't get our benefits cut, and Social Security will be around here for decades and decades and decades and decades to come. So, anyway, all right, let me jump around here. So, you are not taxed on your Social Security after you reach full retirement age. I want to be clear. There are no longer any annual earnings limits once you hit your full retirement age. If you're asking about you and your buddies at the IRS, no, the IRS, always gets their pound of flesh. But in terms of early retirement, when earn over $23,400, Social Security holds back $1 for every $2 you go over. That goes out the window. Yes, if you're talking about taxes in terms of that, the penalty, the limitation, then you no longer get that once you hit your full retirement age. The IRS, that's between you and the IRS. So, Sheila, my first husband of 19 years passed away 10 years after our divorce. I remarried before the age of 60, but are in the process of divorcing. Can I apply for survivor benefits for my first husband? Yes. Once you are now single, then you can absolutely apply for survivor benefits or, benefits, living spouse benefits from your most recent, or probably the survivor benefits is usually more because you get a higher percentage. Absolutely. You just have to prove that you were married to the person for 10 years. Um, and first husband, 19 years past. Yeah. So you were married 19 years. So yes, you're entitled to those benefits. Yep, as long as their benefits are higher than yours, you can start it at 60, and you can get those survivor benefits and don't touch yours and let yours increase up until your full retirement age or 70 or whatever the case may be. But yep, definitely can. Is it legal for my mom in California to get her retirement check deposited in my brother's bank account and she doesn't have to bother opening her account? Yeah, you can put it any place you want. Yep. All right, let's see. I had make sure that her name is on the bank account, because when the Department of Treasury sends it out, they might do a name match to make sure that name is on the account. So just have, who is it, your brother, whoever, make sure that her name is on that account so it's not kicked back. So I had identity theft, and I had to pay back the money the person was using my Social Security number. How is this fair? I had no idea until I received a letter telling me. So I had identity and someone to pay back the person who was using my Social Security number. How is this fair? I had no idea to receive. So, so someone was working and paying into Social Security on your Social Security number, and that increased your monthly Social Security benefits. And then they determined that those weren't your earnings, and they said, "Hey, we paid you, $50 more a month because your earnings were higher. It turns out those weren't your earnings, so you have to pay all this money back." Yes, that is it. They consider that your responsibility to check your earnings record to make sure, you know, that's why you need to check your earnings record. That's the only way that we used to get people coming in the office all the time and say, somebody stole my ID and or my identity, and they did this and went and bought a car and all that stuff in Social Security. But yeah, that's not Social Security. That's credit agencies should never use the Social Security number as the number one number for everything. Social Security number is supposed to be for Social Security. So the only way they can use your Social Security number, nefariously in terms of Social Security is working under your Social Security number and paying FICA tax like they're you. And if that's the case, then yes, you will have to, yeah, you'll have to address it. But you can always follow the overpayment there, the overpayment waiver, and say, "Hey, it wasn't my fault." So two things: if you get an overpayment, two things have to be met. It's not your fault, and you don't have the ability to repay it. If those two things are not met, then unfortunately you have to come up with some type of payment plan. I guess you thought you could have lived on one third of your Social Security, huh? Okay, I'm not sure what that means. How to get a hold of Brooklyn, please. She helped me with the supplement insurance. I lost her direct contact. I lost my other phone. Yeah, Brooklyn. If you're talking about chapter, yeah, just call that number there and give him your name, and they'll be able to route you to Brooklyn there. Yep, no problem. I will be 62 June 14th, and I'm planning on going to the office in March and switching over to my Social Security. Is that the right thing to do? Switching over to your Social Security. So it sounds like you are currently receiving survivor benefits from another record. It really depends. If that's more money on your own record and you need that more money now, yeah, go for it. However, I would, say, okay, yeah, it's, $50, $100 more now. Do I really, really need that extra 50, $100 now? If you do, like I said, if you need it, you need it. But if this is benefits on your own record, remember every month you delay, that benefit goes up. So it might be an extra $50 now, but if you wait till next year, it may be to $100. And if you wait 2 years from now, it might be $150 or $200. So definitely play around with the numbers and see what's best for you. What about if you withdraw money from an IRA? Does that count for the $23,400 income limits if you are receiving survivor benefits? Nope, not at all. Yep, any type of anything IRA, 401k, or anything like that is not considered work. So nope, it doesn't count against the 23,400. But that money, if it's over the 106 or 212,000, it will count for the extra Part B premium. So Paulie, I just hit full retirement age this month. I will get my first check next month. Am I limited to how much I can earn this year since it's the first year? You're $1 billion. So yeah, you're at your full retirement age this month. So no, you are no longer limit. You can make all the money in the world, no problem whatsoever. This all gets so complicated. Thank you for explaining it to us. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, and what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to be able to call Social Security and asking these questions, but unfortunately, politicians want to destroy Social Security, so they don't want your questions to be answered, and they don't want you to get the benefits you are eligible for. You've earned, and they want everybody to be completely angry at Social Security and say, "Oh, I hate that place, they're so terrible, they give me the wrong answers, they don't pick up the phones, yada yada yada." And politicians are sitting back there and go, "Excellent, that's exactly how we planned it." And then they pop up and say, "Hey, you know how terrible Social Security is? We'll give it to Wall Street. I'm sure there'll be better customer service." And then they're going to gamble with your earnings. So I expected my retirement benefits deposit to be the fourth Wednesday. Instead, it was the third of the month. Is it because I received survivor benefits as a young person in the 60s and 70s? Yes, Albert. Yes, that's a kind of a weird fluke, isn't it? So you're born at the end of the month, so therefore your normal pay date would be the fourth Wednesday of the month. But because you received benefits as a young man, in the 60s and 70s, then yeah, the computer system just picks up the old, yeah, pay date. Yes, it's kind of a weird fluke in the system. So, and in the old days, we used to be able to change that. People used to come in and says, I can't, I can't have my check at the middle of the month. I need it on the first of the month to pay rent. And we used to be able to submit it to the Department of Treasury to kind of get it changed. But yeah, they don't do that anymore. It's unfortunate. So. This is like the just trying to complicate what we're trying to figure out. Why, for the elderly, why are they complicating our system? Yeah, exactly. That's the question you should be asking. And that's the question you should be asking those guys, right? Why are you making difficult? Why are you making it so difficult for me, your constituent, the one that's going to vote in the next election? Why are you making it so difficult for me to get the benefits I paid for and I earned at the local Social Security office right down the street from your office, Senator or Congressperson? So we have to make this local. What are you doing to improve the customer? Okay, I don't care about the rest of the country, Senator. What are you doing to improve the customer service at that Social Security office right down the street from you? All right. So I think we need to focus on making it local as much as possible. Let's see here. What's going on? Folks, I got a letter from the Advantage plan that stated they were giving me a $3 discount on my Medicare Part B instead of 185 a month. And now I pay 182. I laughed out loud. Nice of them. Yes. Um, $3. That doesn't, yeah. There are what's called Medicare Advantage Part B give back plans. And so for those people that are having a hard time paying that $185, again, reach out to chapter. They can, see what they can help you out with. But there's a couple of ways to fix that. Is you call Medicaid, your state Medicaid. If you have low income, low resources, you call them. And if you qualify, they will pay for your Part B, $185. So please share and subscribe and all that kind of good stuff so more people hear about this. A lot of people out there are struggling, so we need to help them. And the other way is through a Medicare Advantage Part B give back. And regular viewers to my channel know that I always, 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 always recommend evaluating, checking out Medicare supplements first. Plan N, Plan G. If you're elderly enough, might be able to get a plan F, but most people nowadays G or an N. Check out those plans first, and if it's just not good for you, if it doesn't fit within your budget, whatever the case may be, then check out a Medicare Advantage. But one of those Medicare Advantage plans are called a Part B give back, where the health insurance company essentially pays for part of your Part B, $50, $100, $150, all of it, whatever the case may be. It really depends on what's available in your particular neck of the woods. But be careful with those. People are like, oh yeah, I'd like to get, my Part B paid $185. So you sign up with this company. And if you're healthy and everything like that, check out the details, because, these health insurance companies don't get to be billion-dollar health insurance companies by being stupid. If they're going to give you $100, $185 a month for nothing, basically, this is your money after all, what you paid into Medicare. But anyway, but they're not going to give you that $185 without looking for it back in other places. So if you have like a regular Medicare Advantage plan that doesn't have the big give back, if you go in a hospital, maybe they'll charge you $100 a night, and then MRI is $50. But if you have one with a Part B give back, maybe it might be $300 a night for a hospital and $300 for an MRI. So if you're healthy and you don't intend on getting sick or falling or getting injured or whatever the case may be, and you need that extra money, then Medicare Advantage Part B give back all day long. Awesome. A lot of vets use that because they say, hey, I don't really want it. I don't want Medicare Part B. But maybe I should get it and keep it, but I don't want to pay the $185. And they use the Veterans Administration for most of their thing. Those are good for them. And that's why some of these plans are called Patriot plans or honor plans, because they're particularly focused for people, they're veterans that use the VA medical center most of the time, and they want Part B as kind of a second option, second opinion, fallback, but they hate paying for it. So that's a good option for them. So you can reach out to Chapter and they can help you out. Hate that the useless Pentagon and upper military who barely worked get huge pensions and Social Security just to divorce their wives and be a leech on society. Wow, it sounds like a personal situation here. Giant pensions should not go to Social Security. Yeah. Yeah, the Pentagon, yeah, people talk about fraud, waste, and abuse in Social Security. Then there's obviously fraud, waste. Every Apple and every company has fraud, waste, and abuse. Social Security does too. But if your politician says I'm saving Social Security by going after fraud, waste, and abuse, then yeah, that's kind of a distraction. There is fraud, waste, and abuse, but it's not anywhere near what's going to need to be done to keep Social Security for the long term. So Department of Defense, wow, there's a lot of money there, right? Tons of money there. All right. All right. I am out of time. We are over an hour and apologize. We got lots of questions. Let me jump down here and find someone I've never seen before. Babs, I've never seen you before. How you doing? All right, let's see. Started collecting Social Security October 2024, the month I turned 65. I worked the first 12 days in September and thought I was under the monthly earnings limit. I was over. Social Security withheld my December check. Lesson learned. Yeah. So yeah, if you go over, but sometimes if you get like sometimes you get those checks, the three checks type thing. Just like Social Security, you get three checks in a month, and sometimes your employer gives you three check because the last day falls on a Sunday or something. You can make a case to Social Security, and yeah, so you went over the monthly. So let's see here. Okay, let me go one more. If I apply for spouse benefits when my husband passes and I sell our company, will they penalize me? He has cancer. Oh my gosh, wow, Linda, sorry to hear that. So if you apply for spouse, yeah, so when he passes away, you can file for benefits, and selling your company has no relevance to Social Security whatsoever. Um, it might for the Part B, that IRMA, the income related monthly adjustment amount, depends on how much you sell it for, the capital gains on all that kind of stuff. But in terms of Social Security, nope, won't affect your Social Security benefits at all. So, all right, that'll be it for the day. Make sure you subscribe, become a member, like, share, all that kind of good stuff, and take care of those around you. And y'all have an awesome night, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.